people. Alright, it's going down. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafah. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فالسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا Honoring Layth, bienvenidos a todos, Bakher Ragle people, Khushamadid, and as always, Swagatam. Alright, so first and foremost, I'm just gonna do a sound check. Let me just bring up mi gente. Alright, people, God, it is so stuffy and alright, people, it's going down. This is it. So, it almost didn't go down. What is happening, mi gente? Alright, so, alright. Let me just check the, we can hear you loud and clear. That's Shakib, shukran. Let me just check with mi gente on Facebook. I take it, voice check. It's going through. What the hell just happened there? The crazy stuff that's going on sometimes. I'm trying to click one thing, something else. Anyway, what is going down, people? What is going down? So, yeah, alright. ¿Cómo estás a todos? Alright, everyone is muy bien, people. They're doing it. Que lo que? Yeah, you know, I did try for a while trying to shut this button, but you know what? It's just so stuffy in this room, and it's been kind of like very humid today. I think it's been storming, but I just cannot stand the humidity. People, what is going down? So, as always, whilst people are tuning in, that reminds me, what the hell am I doing? I'm supposed to be sharing this damn thing. So, whilst people are tuning in, clicking like and share as always, as they always do, I have to have husn al-dhan with the people. Let me just... Where is it? So, un momento, there it is. Alright. Just gotta press share. There it is. You see, I have to obviously lead by example. People will be like, he doesn't even share his own thing. Alright. There you go. Alright, done it. So now, whilst the rest of you, as always, I hope you guys are doing awesome. We've got to begin with some shairi as always. Mufti Abu Layth has shared your stream. Hi, you. Teasing me. Am I sharing my own stream? Acha, these games, huh? So,
हाय मोहब्बत तेरे अंजाम पे रोना आया
वाह
हाय मोहब्बत तेरे अंजाम पे रोना आया न जाने क्यों आज तेरे नाम पे रोना आया यूं तो हर शाम उम्मीदों में गुजर जाती है आज कुछ बात है जो इस शाम पे रोना आया कभी तकदीर का मातम कभी दुनिया का गिला मंजिले इश्क के हर गाम पे रोना आया मुझ पर ही खत्म हुआ सिलसिलाए नौहा गरी इस कदर गर्दिशे आयाम पे रोना आया जब हुआ जिक्र जमाने में मोहब्बत का नफीस मुझे अपने दिले नाकाम पे रोना आया
हाय वाह people, those who are struggling out there, those who are what can we say, Mariz e Muhabbat, salams from Australia. You're doing it, people. You're doing it. कितने रोमांटिक मुफ्ती पहली बार देखे हैं यार. आप लोग देखते ही नहीं. Zara, what can we say? You know, you guys Don't give us the time of day. That's what it is. So, those of you that haven't seen my... let me just see. Alright, that was the latest convo I've had, people. That was with Dr. Yousuf Raza from Pakistan, a psychiatrist. We spoke on matters like psychiatry, psychological issues, mental health, human rights in Pakistan, the history of Pakistan, the power dynamics and politics of identity, the attempt to forge an identity. Pakistan's identity, I feel, to an incredible extent, is a forged identity. So discussing that and some other matters. So do check that out. So, other than that, people, what is going on? Salam from Dhaka. Alright, you're doing it. Yaar, Dhaka se yaad aaya. Yaar, Dhaka se yaad aaya that since it's Monday nights, so there you go. See, Qari Saab is really happy, he's thrilled that he's participating in Monday nights with Mufti. So, people, kya haal chal hai aur ho kya raha hai? Ke loke. Let me bring this a bit closer to myself here. Check this out, people. Alright. Vah. So, what is bothering me, gente? Mufti, singa hal de, joram, maze ki. You tell me. Sangal de, what's going down? Looks like Ruh Hafza. It does, actually. This is just cherryade. You know, for some reason, I just don't get fed up with cherryade, whereas I get fed up with many other, you know, like Pepsi Max. I can't have, I don't know, since I've cut back on fizzy drinks, I can't have so much of it now. Lemonade is fine, but it starts to hurt my throat after a while. But cherryade, for some reason, people, see, that's what it is. See, simplicity. Log kehte hain ki people assume I'm not a simple person. So what is going down? The gyms are open. Alright, I've been loving it at the gym, honestly. I've been absolutely loving it. Emporium in Birmingham is open. It's 24/7. So I was there yesterday. Today's a break, naturally, and then back at it tomorrow. People, meanwhile, what else is going on? Alright, this is for the second wave of the lockdown coming right up. But let's see, what else have we got here? I came across, why not start the show with an interesting fatwa? To get us right into it, from the Mashayikh of Najd themselves, Sheikh Sulaiman ibn Ibrahim, As-Saudiyat Yarfadna al-Qiyada. As you can see, the hashtag right there. This is why women should not be driving. So next time you're driving as a woman, behave yourself. And then when women have to kind of, they're stuck, they have to go out and they have to take the car, they must feel like फंसा दिया ना तूने मुझे तूने धोखा दिया ना तूने मुझे. So people, what is going on? What we're going to cover today, I will be taking a look at this whole drama that's been going on with between Danny Boy and Johnny Boy, Johnny Jonathan, which is Jonathan Brown and Danny Boy drama going on. What is all of this? And speaking from those wars, there's the village wars are back on as well, people. The if I find the let me just, I forgot to reduce this. There it is. Now I've done it. So those of you that remember that are familiar with the village wars, alright, the village wars are back on, people, between Sheikh Asrar and you've got our beloved, and Maulana Usman, Maulvi Usman. So these are back on. We got to talk a bit about that. Whoa, there's just so much going on, people. In addition to taking your amazing questions, Zamir Roika has supported for months. You're doing it, Zamir. You're doing it. Right, so you see, I'm trying to read some of the comments as well. What's going on? There you go. Alright, Salam Mufti Al Murabitun. You're doing it. Wa alaikum assalam. You're doing it, people. I've got a job interview. Hassan Mahmoud. Let's take Hassan's. Let's take Hassan's question. He says, I've got a job interview. How do you deal with anxiety? Is that the job interview? Cha. Yahan practice. You're practicing the... People, how should Hassan deal with... Let me just stretch this back out. The chat section. What's my mouse doing? So how should Hassan deal with these people? Any suggestions? I'll let people drop that. Alright, I'll let people drop some hints. Mark Lonzetta, you're doing it with the super chat. Is that you, though? Is that you? You're doing it. Look at that. Fatima Muhammad is now following. Ahlan wa sahlan, Fatima. You're doing it. How can you cut back on fizzy drinks? I'm an addict. So was I an addict. Absolutely, with Pepsi Max. But then I kind of, I don't know, I just kind of cut back a bit. And then now I do still have fizzy drinks. I mean, I have Pepsi and stuff, but I just don't feel like it as much. I almost do it out of, let's have a drink. I might as well have. But first I used to just, alhamdulillah, it's good. Like I was saying, it's only a few I can carry on with now. Muhammad Momo Ullah. यार ये क्या कैसे कैसे so what's up with these interesting names? Right, so Mark Lonzetta is doing it with the super chat. Says, could you explain Surah Sa'ad, verse 34? What was the test from Allah regarding the Jasad on Suleiman's throne? Right, yeah, I do. You see, it doesn't clearly state that. If we, right, we'll bring it up and I'll go through it. It's not actually stating what you're thinking. Now, we'll come back to that. I'll let it come up and then we'll cover it. Okay, so hang in there, Mark. You're doing it. Any thoughts on the current situation in Lebanon? Yes, absolutely. So I'd like to say that, I mean, it's really shocked the world. This explosion, which really resembles, if anything, it resembles a kind, seriously, it resembles like a military strike, and that to an incredibly powerful one. So I think it's taken the whole world by shock. And I mean, first and foremost, our thoughts and du'as are with those who have suffered. Those who have been martyred by this incident. May Allah have mercy on their souls, those and their families who have been left behind and bereaved. Those who have been injured by this tragedy, may Allah grant them a swift and complete recovery. Ameen. And just those who have suffered as a consequence of this, and whether that's direct or indirect suffering, those who have suffered economically, those whose shops have been destroyed, whose livelihood has suffered, or it's simply just the trauma of being present and witnessing such a tragedy. May Allah make things easy for all of them. Right, so, but this whole incident, right? I feel that it really, I don't know. You see, I'm curious. I feel that this may have been kind of military style explosives that the Lebanese government or military have kind of messed up on and accidentally kind of maybe blown up. I mean, as as absurd as that sounds, but I don't know. I mean, is it just simply that this, this ammonium nitrate or whatever it is, they've got it there for 6 years and one day it just blows up? It could be. Or could it be that they've had some secret, this is one of the military and the government's kind of secret, not hideout, but a kind of stash of military equipment, highly explosive, which they're meant to be maybe prepping or doing something with, and it blows up. Hence the government seems to have just said, well, oops, my bad. I mean, it's not quite the thing you can say after an explosion like that. But yeah, may Allah make things easy, man. I mean, right, somebody said, Mufti, chase up Sheikh Arif for the MindTrap. That was a super chat sent by Bobs and Virgin. Send Bobs and Virgin. He's saying the podcast will be a legendary amalgamation of the two sexiest minds to exist on this earth. Hi, wow. This Bobs and Virgin profile, dangerous, dangerous, this one. Too much danger. Right, so what's going on? Everyone in the chat, salams. You're doing it. Bobson. Right, so what does it say? All right. Any advice for somebody? Ismaeel has asked Asrar Rashid, not just Asrar, please. I'll have you know. Our beloved. The beloved. Our beloved Asrar Sheikh Asrar Rashid, Sahibur Rashidiyah. You have to say Sahibur Rashidiyah. He, known to some as Ratvi Saab, but we will tonight be discussing Ratvi Saab's once again flare up of the village wars. Speaking, from that explosion over there in the Middle East, coming back to these village wars have erupted. So there's some crazy stuff going on there. Right. Mufti, the Jewish Bible mentions in Genesis that Ismaeel was the firstborn, not Isaac. Please comment. I don't think does the Jewish Bible? I thought the Jewish Bible puts Isaac as the. Okay. I thought Ishaq, it made sense since Ibrahim alayhi salam is at that stage struggling to conceive. And then there's glad tidings and his wife conceives. So I assumed that it's through Sarah. No, not assumed. This is my understanding. May I say I'm just being too humble for no reason. Sometimes this humility, it doesn't suit me. Right, so this so Sarah has his his child Ishaq, and Ismaeel is through Hajar. Now Hajar is the slave girl, and the slave girl, well, okay, I suppose, unless you're going to argue that they're very simultaneous, because the slave girl is gifted to Ibrahim alayhi salam by the Pharaoh, because he doesn't have the slave girl, and it's when the Pharaoh takes Sarah off him. So Sarah is now then with the Pharaoh, who force or however he kind of marries her, and she spends probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months, whatever it is, half a year, maybe a year, that kind of time she spends with the Pharaoh in his palace. And it's during that time that Ibrahim alayhi salam is, because he's stuck and he's on his own, so she pleads to the Pharaoh that he should be kind of compensated, and he's lonely, and so they give him certain amenities and compensation, and also amongst that is Hajar to kind of keep him company. So this is the kings of old, the royalty of old. They're like, yaar, bored ho gaye ho. You bored. Can bring him that slave girl over there. Yeah, this should help entertain you. That was a different generation of people. Aajkal, today it'd be like, acha, you bored? Go for a walk. You're like, acha. Only walked from the Canaan region all the way to Egypt, but theek hai. So, yeah, so I mean, and then when the Pharaoh realizes, he breaks it off with Sarah, and Sarah goes back with Ibrahim alayhi salam towards the east, and it's there that she gives birth to the child. So I assume that, I'm still going with, that is the first child, unless Hajar during her stay with, unless they're both simultaneously pregnant. That's the only other scenario I can assume that could make it work, but that's my understanding. Yeah. And that by the way, is what Ahmed, what's the Egyptologist, Ahmed Osman. I'm trying to really get hold of him. I don't know how to get hold of this guy. I mean, he's a senior elderly researcher, Egyptologist, and he's in the UK, but I just don't know. He's not on any social media. I got hold of some Facebook pages. I messaged them. I can't find an email for him. He's not on Twitter. He's not on Instagram. He's not on. I don't know how do you get hold of these people? I'm trying to get hold of him for an episode of MindTrap, because he has a theory that's very like, whoa, it's it puts everything on its head, and the figures and the chronological order is different, and everything is just he places he kind of hints, I don't know whether he clearly says it, but he also hints that he clearly says that the reason Ibrahim alayhi salam does all the circumcision and these things is because of the Egyptian practice of circumcision, which, to be fair, is very believable then, because the Egyptians are amongst the oldest civilization known to practice circumcision. They also have a matrilineal thing which the Jews then inherit. So he feels that that's inherited because of them. I think he's hinting towards. I know he is hinting towards. Okay. He may even be clearly saying it in some interviews he's more clear, in some he's a bit vague, saying that the Ishaq is really kind of like the stepson of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he's arguing that Ishaq is actually the child of the Pharaoh and the child of Sarah. And hence he's arguing that this is why in the Bible they um, taunt Ibrahim alayhi salam for the child not looking like him. I'm not sure exactly what verses he's referring to, but I've got to kind of read all of that. But then he has a huge follow up of Moses is Akhenaten and the Pharaoh and this whole thing of Joseph, Yousuf is Yuya, and this whole thing. It's some of it is on its head, by the way, as in the figures are moved around chronologically. So he's arguing that that Pharaoh that Abraham meets is the prophet Dawood, and it's really like what but it's at the same time it's like what and then he's giving all these explanations for it, and he's saying look, it's Tutmosis is Dawood, and he's kind of showing all these arguments, and his argument is that because Ishaq is then the child of Dawood, this is why the Jewish tradition, they always have David in that position. Not just because he was a king, because his point is that the Jewish people, in many ways, respect David almost more than they do Moses. And it doesn't seem to make sense because David was just a king in the Jewish Bible. He's not. I mean, he's a prophet, but he's not like Moses, who rescues the Israelites and the first person to preach worldwide about monotheism. And I mean, they say Ibrahim alayhi salam spoke of monotheism, but he didn't. There's discussions on whether he went around condemning other cultures or not. But Moses clearly is. So this is his argument. It's very, it's like, whoa, but it's intriguing. So I want to really get hold of him and have a podcast discussion with him. I'm reading through his book, Moses and Akhenaten. But yeah, cool. Mufti, you musla. You're doing it. Vah, 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 vah. So, Mr. Miyagi, could you perhaps one day do a video series covering the prophets mentioned in the Qur'an, hadiths, and the miracles they did? Well, I've got already a clip on YouTube. It's about how to approach narratives in the Quran, and it's especially focusing on miracles. And it's titled the queen, the throne of the Queen of Sheba, or something like that. So if you my name and if you Google the Queen of Sheba, it will come up. How to approach narratives in the Quran. In that, I discuss how to approach these miracles. So I speak of this zoom in, zoom out kind of methodology. So do check that out. That may already answer many of your questions. Why do people say shaving the beard is haram when they don't say that dyeing the hairs? Exactly, Mr. O'Donnell. Azarati, you're doing it as always. You're doing it. Right, let me just make sure my Facebook comments are up to scratch as well. So yeah, so this is the thing, you see, because everybody agrees that the beard was not something the Prophet introduced. Nobody makes a claim that the Prophet introduced the beard. And what they feel is that they all recognize that the Prophet had a beard, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but pretty much Arabs, for the most part, all kept beards, the men. So it was something that he was a part of, as since he was a part of that, the Prophet was a part of that culture. They all agree on this. What they disagree on is there a religious element to keeping a beard? Now, some people would say no, and I would fall in line with that, that it's not really religious, it was just more conventional and customary. But even if you say it was religious, they take the hadith that the Prophet is saying, A'fu anil luha, let the beards grow. Or they could take it as a command. Grow your beards. You think, all right, theek hai. And the hadith says, be different to the Jews and Christians. Grow your beards. Or do, it's an imperative, okay? A'fu anil luha. So, okay, fair enough. The problem here is, you see, when explained like that, it could seem that indeed, if despite a command having many interpretations, you see there's a command, the imperative, which means rather the imperative, is the name for a command like sit, go, walk, read, look. These things are imperatives, the instructions to do something. Now, the imperative command can have many connotations. It can be done to mean do it as a command. It could be done as a request. It could be done as simply just an arbitrary statement. Like people say often, like they use, it could be done out of a courtesy. It could be done out of, so many people, when they say, have some food, for example, eat with me, it doesn't mean as a command, eat with me, goddammit. It's more like, why don't you have some food with me? And the person could turn it down and say no. Or take a seat, or, sit over here. Or, so the question is, what kind of a command is it? But people could say, they could argue that no, we're just going to go be different from the Jews and the Christians. It's a religious command. We're going to take it at face value. Chalo, theek hai. Bueno. Right, so the problem then, taklif ab bhi hai. That's the problem, The problem is that then there are at least 2 other hadith with this same format. Exact same format. With the structure is in an imperative, it's a command. And it's followed with the structure of, it's connected to the structure of be different to the Jews and the Christians. One of them is dye your hair and your beards. Like, color them, dye them. So, I know some people, I don't know whether they have an issue using the word dye with hair, or so whatever. Color your hair, be different to the Jews and the Christians. Now, nobody would take that, even though it's a command, to mean it's an obligation in Islam. But they might take it upon recommendation. To be fair, they might say, well, it's good to color your hair to, and then somebody comes out with like electric blue or like bright pink. They go, but the hadith says, khalif al-Yahuda wa Nasara. So that's one issue. But then there's the third hadith. And this is where things get really interesting. There's a hadith that sallu fi ni'alikum, that pray with your shoes on. Khalif al-Yahuda wa Nasara. Be different to the Jews and the Christians. Yahan pe samasya hai baba, samasya. This one, big problem, because the scholars would go mad if somebody tried to pray with their shoes on. For the most part, I mean, they might just about excuse it and tolerate it, but they, for the most part, would be very, very agitated by the thought of people. Hence, when the Salafis started praying with their shoes on, most of the other madhabs kind of went into cardiac arrest. They had a heart attack. That what the hell? Pray with your shoes on. And yet the hadith structure is the same, and nobody would even say that it's, generally speaking, from the madhabs, that it's recommended to pray with your shoes on. They would just say, yeah, the Prophet said that, but it wasn't really a religious act. So this is where you look at this thing of the beard and it falls in line with these narrations. And the beard is just one of them that allow the beard to grow, be different to the Jews and the Christians. So, you see, once you put it in line with all of these, it gives it a totally different flavor. Alright. Highlights are iconic. Copying a man is not. What am I? Right. So, what's going on, peoples? What's going on? So many comments. Let me follow down. Alright. Ahsan. Right, has commented by saying, Salam, Mufti from Germany. Right, there's also another question. Sorry, I just missed one. Let me come to this. There's a question by Knowledge, super chatted. You're doing it with the super chats. You're doing it. Mufti, do you think Pakistani scholars are hated on by Indian scholars and held back and denied opportunities? Do you mean in India or do you mean in the West? You mean worldwide? Or is it just in India? In India, I can understand why they wouldn't probably quote many Pakistani scholars, because I suppose they've got their own, and then there's a problem in quoting Pakistani scholars, it would get political. So that makes sense why they might want to avoid quoting. If it's worldwide, I can see that definitely. There is, but like as in the UK, I can see there is the Madaris system, madrasa system, is run in the UK by the Gujaratis, as far as I'm aware, for the most part. Not exclusively, as in there are other people as well that have madrasas, but mostly it is the Gujaratis and the Gujarati community. And I think to them, the Pakistani community isn't really, they don't really, I don't think they like much the Pakistani community. अब ये तो होना ये तो होगा. Damn, I was supposed to cut out that clip of my favorite Zakir. You know, Zakir are the Shia preachers, and this one you've got.
फंसा दिया ना तूने मुझे तूने बहका दिया ना तेरे कहने में मैं आ गया इस वक्त बड़ी
So I was supposed to cut out his clip that ye to hoga. So I think that is true, that they don't generally like the Pakistani community. Pakistan, I don't know about the community, but they don't like the Pakistani. They don't give. There's a lot of discrimination. Let's put it like that. They don't want that religious hierarchy to belong to the Pakistani clergy. That said, I would assume for the most part the Pakistani community is Brailvi. So because it's Brailvi anyway, it's of a different denomination, and the Brailvis don't really recognize the Deobandi Madaris or the Deobandis. They don't even recognize them. So I suppose they're all kind of just doing their own thing in their own bubbles. But yeah, I suppose I could agree with that to some extent. And I think that happens in many places. Believe it or not, there's many people who I think, I've had issues with. One of the issues that they've had is because of things like this, because people struggle because I'm not ethnically an Arab. Sometimes some Arab mashayikh, I've had them, in a state of denial, saying to other people about me that how can, جاء واحد باكستاني كيف يعرف المذهب المالكي كيف right, but this is it happens because they think, well, how can a Pakistani, and then that to a British Pakistani, know anything about the Maliki madhab? I think that's true. How could any? But then I'm not just any. अपन कुछ ज्यादा ही खास है. You know, this special, you know, this one. Sheikh, not just any أنا منفرد في هذا الباب. So that's right. Coming to Ahsan's question, he says, Salam, could you please tell me something about Abu Hanifa? I read many strange things about him. How could he transmit so many hadith? I'm not sure I understood that question. Let me come back to that. Let me just think about what's being said there. There's Adil Feroz is speaking. Dila Feroz Bashir has super chat. You're doing it with the super chat, Dila Feroz. Thoughts on music which includes apparent blasphemy or shirk entailed phrases like Tu hi Rab. Hi. Or what's the other one? Tujh mein Rab dikhta hai. That I see the Lord in you. The Shah Rukh Khan song, that famous one. Or compliments to the Lord. Biprak song Rabbave. It's permissible to listen to this kind of music. It's not haram. You know, there's you see, you have to understand that when people say, like the song, what's the lyric, man? That Tujh mein Rab dikhta hai. That I see the Lord in you. This is not necessarily, or where people say things like, oh, I would want to worship you in poetry and things like this. This is not a kind of shirky kalam. I mean, people are going to say, Mufti yaar, kuch zyada hi pheng diye. You're blagging a bit too much here. This bring it down. No, it is shirky bidhahir. You know, bidhahirihi. It is in its apparent form, there's words of shirk being used. But that does not make something. It comes down to the usage of words. The usage of terms and the kind of social culture that exists. So people use things that they don't mean. So people will say, oh my God, that ice cream was divine. Now, that doesn't mean that they start worshipping the ice cream. But in our culture, there's the people use things. There's a culture, there's a usage. And in Urdu as well, there's this huge usage of the beloved being kind of addressed as though they are the divine. There is this, hence in Urdu, in poetry, they would refer to them as but, especially the women, refer to them as goddesses. Fah. And this is why the old classics of poetry, you know, the dons of like Mir, and even though Ghalib uses it, but not as much, but Mir and Dagh and Sauda, and you know, you're going to get all of those the classic, even Allama Iqbal will use it to some extent, but they will use this term but or butan to Momin Khan, Momin, and these people to refer to beautiful women as goddesses. But it wasn't really like statues of divinity. But everybody, you know, it doesn't mean that they're worshipping them, and they knew that, and everybody knew that. And so it doesn't make it haram then. Because language is it's a social construct, you see. Words are how they are understood by people. So similarly, the term sanam in Urdu, which refers to like dear or darling, comes from the Arabic word sanam, idol, which is worshipped. Asnam, like in the Qur'an, sanam and asnam, the word in the Qur'an, is that word sanam, which is in Urdu, means, you know, like somebody dear and beloved to you, like a darling. So this, it doesn't make it shirk, that, oh my God, that's kufr. So when people say, oh, look, I see the Lord in you, as in I see his manifestation of the beauty that he has created in this world. Wah! Kafro! Look at the iman at what the person is saying. He's doing tadabbur fi khalqillah. He's like contemplating regarding the creation of God. He's doing wah, wah, wah. If this is the creation, what must the creator be like? Wah, wah, wah. That's what's that's what's really going on, people. That's what's really going on. Let me find it. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, 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 wah. That's what's going on, people. So it's not shirk. Many of the ulama might say it is, but that's just these control freaks who want to forbid everything. You know, if it's up to them, everything. But if you look at the hadith, the Prophet says a person in ecstasy, in an ecstatic state, says to Allah, "You are my slave and I am your Lord." You know, لشدة فرحه or لفرط الفرح. He says this out of this ecstatic joy that, but it doesn't make the person having committed a sin or anything. It's just that people say these kind of things. Cool. All right, let's move on, people. Salam from Bosnia. Axiom, you're doing it. Mufti, can you elaborate on your view of consciousness? Wow. That view of consciousness. Mufti, can you bring Mahad on MindTrap? You know, there's this person, he came on, and you know something, let me tell you something. When I did my previous meetup, this Mahad came on, but I didn't know who he was, and I never got around to speaking to him. So what happened is when I shut everybody off, and I said, all right, I'm going, sorry guys, you know, that's enough, we'll catch up next week, much love. There were still 2 or 3 people left in the studio room waiting. So now that I'd ended the live, I thought I'd click on them and say, oh, sorry, man, I didn't get round to it. So I was doing that. So I click on one, apologize, have a brief catch up, then goodbye, click on the next one, good, you know, same thing, goodbye. And then there was Mahad. And so I click on him and I say, oh, you know, sorry, man, I couldn't get round. And he's like, oh, you know, it's me, Mahad, by the way. So I was like, Mahad, who? So I didn't know who, he didn't have his name there as Mahad. So he's like, oh, I've commented on Facebook. And then I remember, of course, the one I was speaking about learning knowledge from the cradle to the grave. So then he starts having this argument with me, you know, oh, you know, I want to question you on your beliefs and blah, blah, blah. And it turns into a debate. And I said to him that time, you know, I wish we were still live. Because as soon as it turned into a little argument, I kind of was like, all right, let me flex. Let me do that flex. There you go. Right. So I was like, let me show you, na. That's not how you debate. This is how you debate. And then I had to go in with the I had to do all the killer moves, the kung fu moves, and it was so hilarious what dissecting. You know what? I'm gonna be honest, people. It's too easy, and in a way, it's not fair. I get that, because I don't mean to kind of just have my own trumpet blown here. I don't know what you guys are, you know, you people, naughty nutties. I don't mean to kind of sing my own praise, but I'm just, all it is I just love honesty. If I'm to be honest, I'm too well trained in this, you know, in the art of argumentation and debate. And it's not, anybody can be trained in it. Look, it's not, you have to think about it. Look, I've been arguing and debating for at least 2 decades. Yeah. So if you take a skill, like if you'd been drawing and learning how to draw, and you'd been doing that for 2 decades, you would be pretty good at it by now. Or you ought to be, especially if you're passionate as well about it. So you can imagine along the way you've refined the hell out of these arguments. So it is a very handicapped argument debate for me to debate just like common people. Well, even though Mahad knew a certain amount, but it's very easy to dissect them. It's like a child. Literally. I mean, his name is rightfully given to him, Mahad. So I'm happy to do it, but it's kind of like a bit cruel. People are like, because some people are, why is Mufti gunning for him? Like, why is Mufti breaking him down like that? Well, sorry, he doesn't. Hey, why Mufti doing that? But that's because, I have to sometimes. But I'm happy for him to come on the lives, and I will, complete any gaps that are left there. But cool. Yeah, and I would be happy to debate Sheikh Asrar, but if he would have a dialogue, and the problem is Sheikh Asrar is not our beloved, is not a person that knows how to have a dialogue. He is, you see, this is one of the problems with scholars. Their egos are so overinflated. They're not used to anybody questioning them. So it's too hard to handle for them. To have a dialogue where you question me, who the hell do you think? You must present your question, now you must be quiet, give me 10 minutes to answer. That's how these people are only used to handling this. They can't have a dialogue. So, yeah. Right, so speaking of our beloved, there was, and I'm gonna come back to this, but we have.
So one graduate from a Mufti from Birmingham, a graduate from Karachi, very difficult to even have a conversation with. So
you don't notice how our beloved, he won't say Mufti Abu Layth. Kiran, ye क्या हो रहा है बाबा ये क्या Hi. See, I'm not saying it. Toba meri majal. It's not my place to say this. Some have said that is signs of trauma. Where you struggle to say the name even. This Mufti. this Mufti Abu Layth. Hi. My beloved Asrar. This one, we're going to come back to the beloved later on, people. We're going to come back. So, what is going down? Should we take some more questions? Mufti, Marvel, or DC? I'm not really either, but I suppose I'm more the darker one, whichever that is. I don't watch the kind of kiddish kind of stuff. I find them too childish, but I suppose, is Batman the more darker? I suppose I could have watched some Batmans and stuff like that. So I'm more that, I guess. I'm not a super Batman fan or anything, but I would watch that, I suppose, over the other things like Fantastic Four or whatever they are. I find those things very kind of like childish. Like I just can't watch them. I don't, it has to be. I only watch movies aimed at adults. You haramis kuch aur samajh lete ho. You understand something else. I'm just being, honestly, I find that, any movie, if it's like a 12, I will just not watch it. Categorically, regardless of its story, because the way I understand it is the fact that they've aimed it at 12-year-olds, they must have dumbed down the story, because they're not going to have a complex or a complicated story for 12-year-olds. So yeah. Mufti, should I take my hijab off? I wear a khimar. I feel insecure with or without. I feel insecure with or without. You see, Maryam the First. Her name is Maryam the First. This one trying to a sting operation, you know, this one. This one not nice, my friend. So, you see, you know, the hijab is a very personal choice. Okay. If people want to wear the hijab, they should discuss it. I mean, they should wear it. If they don't want to wear it, I don't feel it's an obligation. I feel modesty is the obligation. You know, I will be having on this coming Friday, Bushra Sheikh, who was on the what's bloody hell? Oh my God! See, this is where I'm having that moment. I can't remember what do you call the what's that? The Apprentice. She was on The Apprentice, and she also ran the experiment, the niqab experiment. She ran that as well. So and she's an entrepreneur, so I'll be having her on Friday, and we'll discuss things like this: niqab, hijab. Now she is perceptibly from her Facebook or social media profile doesn't wear hijab. So it'd be interesting to discuss that, what her findings were, what her thoughts are. I mean, I don't believe that the head covering is mandatory anyway. I believe that it is, you know, if somebody wants to do it, that's good. Alhamdulillah, if it helps them, I recognize it's part of the Muslim culture, and many people feel it's obligatory. I recognize that. But I don't feel that from the Qur'an or Sunnah alone you can establish its obligation. And, you know, if something is so important, how can it be that the Qur'an or Sunnah weren't clear on it? To me, that's you know, it gets stuck there. Right. Kapil Patel, you're doing it with the super chat. You're doing it. David Wood has been inviting scholars this month. Would you be up for the task? Sure. I mean, message me the timings, and if I'm around at that time, I don't mind. But I don't know what what would come out of this, to be honest with you, because I don't think they really would appreciate my interpretations, because to them my interpretations would be, to them, apologetic. Obviously, to me, it is the interpretation. To them, it would be like, because you see, it would suit them that the Muslim interpretation is a, you know, this very rigid, this kind of like dumb, stupid interpretation on things, whatever the things are, because it's easier to mock. You know, if you have a more reason-based, sophisticated, intelligent response, you can't really take the mick out of it. So, because, you know, it's not as funny. So, it's like, I suppose, when I'm disagreeing with people, if somebody's going to be one of these kind of mullahs, it's easier to take the mick out of that. Whereas if somebody's a very sophisticated, reason-based disagreement, it's not as easy to kind of, you know, take the mick out of it. How was Mufti Abu Layth rude? I'm surprised he tolerated Asrar for that. Max, Magdi, Sahab, you're doing it, Max. You're doing it. How was Mufti Abu Layth rude? I wasn't rude when I was with Asrar. He was rude. Not as in he was a bit rude. But, you know, it didn't bother me that he was rude a bit. I mean, I would have obviously preferred he was pleasant, but I just felt that it would have been much more meaningful if we just had a chat. But the problem was, it was too much drama. You see, the problem is there's too much ego. There's too many egos. That's the problem. Nafsi. Hi. So, what is going down? Mufti, is there any classical Islamic scholar who thought hijab to be optional? I have argued that I feel that was Imam Malik's understanding, although he wasn't so clear about it. I feel that that was his understanding, because when he gives his fatwa making exceptions on women's hair in certain circumstances, when really if it's the Sharia, then it's the Sharia. Because him saying, well, you know, if she's around her servant, she doesn't have to cover her hair. I mean, the question is why? I mean, people were very strict with even father-in-laws, but Imam Malik wasn't. The woman doesn't have to cover her hair around the father-in-law. She doesn't have to do these kind of... So you can see he's making a distinction between where there is no real religious obligation. It's, no religious kind of derogation or exception. Exemption. Exemption. But it seems he's basing it on inconvenience, just like to make life easy for people. So following on from that, that's how I read into his fatwa. Yeah. So what is going on? Mufti Macau asks, what are your thoughts on Mufti Muhammad ibn Muneer, American graduate from Medina University? Oh, speaking of un momento, speaking of, is this, I believe, un momento, I believe this, is this the brother?
How many brothers here have 2 wives? Raise your hand if you have more than 1 wife in this picture. Any brothers have more than 1 wife? Whole masjid, not 1 brother. Wallahi, that's sad. Sad. Wallahu alam.
Let me just take a moment to have some remorse and Ya Allah, okay. Up until today, I haven't, but now I'm not sure if that is the brother, but that's an awesome... I'm not mocking that clip, by the way. I just found it really funny, that's all. But I've heard good things about Mufti Muneer, because initially I came across him where I haven't met him, but I came across him when somebody was saying to me, oh, Mufti, you need to speak to Mufti such and such, who was going to be at Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham. And I thought, Mufti? Yaar, ye Mufti kaun hai? Yaar, there's only one Mufti I know, and that's Apun, that is me. I thought, another Mufti. You see, there's not many people who go by the term Mufti. So there's many Muftis, but there's not many Muftis who own the title Mufti. So there might be a Mufti, but they don't write and they don't address themselves as Mufti, and they don't sign off as Mufti. There's very few. And amongst those few is Bandana cheese, you know. Let me do the humble kind of Arabic al-faqir, al-afqar, al-ahqar, you know, the most humble, the most despised. Start overdoing it with the so somebody said Mufti, and Mufti is not a term that Salafis have. So Salafis don't have Muftis because they don't have Mufti courses in their madrasas. So how can they just become Muftis unless they've studied the course? And since they don't have a Mufti course, they can't be Muftis. Like, how do you become a Mufti? So there's only 2 real ways of becoming a Mufti. One nowadays, and that is either by like formal appointment by the government and things like this, or you go through a particular course on and training on to become a Mufti, and then you are now certified, you take the test and you're certified as a Mufti. But because the Salafi institutions don't have such courses, how could the Salafis have a Mufti something? So the only way that could happen is if a person was a Mufti from a Deobandi or a Brelvi or a different background and then converted to Salafism. So that could be the only other way. So I was intrigued and I came across him, checked out some of his videos. it turns out he's not a mufti, but he seems to he has the kind of nickname, the tag name that stuck with him, Mufti. But he seems like a really like a cool person, I have to say. He in the clips I saw, he had a very like a good sense of humor. He seemed to have charisma. Yeah, I'd love to connect with him. I'd love to get him on MindTrap. If anybody knows him, put him in touch with me. That'd be awesome. Cool. Mufti literally agrees with Gamidi on 90% of the things. Yeah, possibly even more. I don't know. I would feel that. I don't know whether Gamidi Saab would agree with me on everything, but I would agree with him. More so on many things. I think I'm a bit. The difference with Gamidi Saab's approach and my approach. One, Gamidi Saab is much more kind of has a much more mature approach. I respect that. He's the kind of approach that you would show your parents. When they ask a question about Islam, you wouldn't present somebody like me. They'd be like, this guy, what the hell? You're definitely going to hell. But you'd present somebody like Gamidi Saab. So he's much more kind of, mature, much more, I don't know, the word still comes to mind. Like he's kind of much more, whereas I'm kind of like, I'm just crazy, I think. So, yeah, so Gamidi Saab generally on that. And then the other thing is, I think Gamidi Saab still does try to a great extent to please or appease the Indian subcontinent scholars. So like the Deobandi scholars, the Brailwi scholars, he will still try to appease them and to try to be a middle ground between them and, so he's not, so in many ways he's still very, very traditional. I don't know if traditional is the right word, because I would claim to be traditional too, but I suppose very conservative. He's not actually that radical in his views as people assume. So I think I'm much more out there, outspoken on many issues. I'm perhaps a lot more. I've had a much more daring approach, and I've entertained controversy much more than somebody like Javed Gamidi Saab has. So, for example, the concept of the afterlife being, or not the concept, the description of the afterlife being symbolic in nature, not literal. It's not something, I don't think Gamidi Saab would say anything like that. Even things like, I'm just trying to think, that hudud, punishments of the Sharia in this world is, sorry, that's my private jet just landing. That the concept of hudud changes with the Sharia. You see, but I have the Maliki madhab that allows me to say things like that. Whereas I suppose because Gamidi Saab doesn't, you see, what's also different in our approaches is I am part of the Maliki madhab. And I suppose Gamidi Saab isn't really part of any madhab. So you see, for him to say something, it would be entirely off his own back. Whereas I would show that, look, the Malikis before me have been thinking like this. Look, Burzuli 700 years ago is saying, 600 years ago is saying the Sharia should change, this should change. That's what the Sharia itself mandates. I'm just part of a legacy. So I suppose there's that as well that is different between us. And things like I suppose wearing earrings, I've got rulings that's permissible. Tattoos are permissible. I don't think Gamidi Saab would ever say something like that, but I could be wrong. But yeah, so there is that kind of approach where I think I would have maybe tackled head on many more issues that are controversial than Gamidi Saab has, because I think he's still trying to keep relatively, he's still trying to not he doesn't want his teachings to be an affront to the traditional Indo-Pak ulama like the Deobandis, and I think he doesn't want to rattle the cage too much, which is fair enough, which is sensible. You see, this is what I'm saying. I feel he's a very sensible, mature person. I'm just I'm just off the rails. That's the problem. But yeah, tattoos, it's interesting because I'm going to do a whole thing on tattoos. Ow. Yeah. Ow. Right, so this standard edition of the Risala, but it's got Ibn Mansur, Abu Abdullah ibn Mansur al-Maghrawi al-Zanati, his kind of his adages to it, where he kind of comments and speaks. And this is the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani. You see now. Oh, right. So in this, they don't seem to have the complete one. I was reading yesterday the PDF version, and I was hoping it was going to be in my hard copy as well. It doesn't seem to be here, actually. Let me just check. I mean, the issue is here, but his commentary on it isn't. So so even he mentions, but it's known anyway that even that Zanati from the Malikiya writes that, look, that tattoos are not haram. That they say they're makruh only in the face, and that too because of the harm and things like this that it could cause. But on the body, they felt that it was just permitted. It was just permitted. It was just permissible. Full stop. And this, you see, it's nothing strange from the Malikis. Even Qarafi in his Dhakhira, he argues that, look, that how do people critique this thing of, like, how do they say tattoos are changing the creation of God? Because he says it doesn't. Because what if it's for beauty? How is that changing? What if it's for he says that they're arguing that this is always a mutation. And I'll have to refute this next week properly because I'll bring the clip. I did have the clip, but I forgot to bring it up. That there was a discussion somebody sent me by the Mad Mamluks who were discussing, and they bring me up. So somebody had sent me the clip that they're speaking about tattoos, and one of them, one of them says, Abu Layth says, and they go, ha ha ha, Abu Layth, ha ha. And they go, oh, don't mention Wahim. If we listen to him, then we have to believe everything he says, which is like the dumbest thing I just heard. Oh, let me get that right. If we listen to him, then we have to believe everything he says. Acha, cha, cha, cha. And you guys are discussing religion. And then on top of that, so the person asks that, yeah, but I'm just saying, if we just listen to what Abu Layth says here, can we respond to it? So one of them says, so he asked the question that, were tattoos ever a symbol of beauty? Because in my clip on tattoos on YouTube, I highlight that this is not a historic trend. People, this thing of using tattoos for beautification or aesthetic purposes is a very modern trend. People did have tattoos. It was initially to kind of, it was for branding slaves. That's what it was for. So it was initially something to possess ownership, like the way they owned animals and cattle, and they would place these kind of tattoo these marks on them. They would do that on slaves. So it was seen as something tarnishing one's reputation. Then tattoos do emerge as tribal practices. So women sometimes, and some of the, like the Berber tribes, and hence, the Zanatis and these people, the scholars that gave those fatwas, they were from the Amazigh. One of the major tribes of the Amazigh is the Zanata tribe. So, which breaks off into many other kind of sub-tribes. So you see how these ulama accommodated for their own people, because they saw that this isn't. And the point is, one of these guys in that clip says, oh yeah, the women did in the past, they had tattoos on their chin, which were the tribal kind of marks. And that was the super hot thing of that day and age. Because that was like so hot. Acha cha cha. Oh, mere dade. It's like that was the super hot thing, was it? What, these green dots? That was the wow. That was these tribal things were not. They were done as something kind of. It might have been mischievous, or it might have been something tribal, but it wasn't. Maybe doing a kind of beauty spot might have been seen as beauty, but doing these kind of like dots on the hands and the dots was not really a sign of beauty. It was more a tribal kind of thing. And many of the Malikiyah allowed it. So, if you have a problem with that, that's fine. Nobody's telling you to accept it. But to assume that, it's the ignorance, that not knowing that other ulama have given these rulings. And but then it's not majority anymore. Majority, ta. Yeah, because those ulama gave that ruling before your dad came and established a democracy in Islam. Because those rulings are before your dad's arrival, who kind of obviously democratized Islam and said from here forth, all rulings will be selected democratically. So, yeah. Right, what is going? Let's take some. So, is being a tattoo artist a halal occupation? Yeah, I mean, it's not haram by default. Obviously, what people do with tattoos and how they do them and where they do them is like anything. It deals with the things it deals with, but just by somebody who gives, who is a tattooist, it doesn't make them haram. Okay, so somebody said that Ahmed Shuaib said, okay, Gamidi Saab does say tattoos are halal. Okay, wow. I'm, that's, okay, that's, you see, we're more alike than I thought. Because I would think that he wouldn't say, I would assume, if you were to ask me, that I don't think he would believe it's haram, but I don't feel he would address it, because I feel that it might just rattle the cage unnecessarily. And it's not what his kind of thing. So, yeah. Right, Ilyas Teferi, you're doing it with the super chat. Is that you? Student said, Mufti, check the super chats. Let me check the super chats. My wife asked me about other wives, and I replied, we can't discuss unless we follow the Rashidiyah. You go, woman, are you trying to have an argument? First of all, we're only going to go by an argument according to this book. Are you ready? This is the Rashidiyah. We do not argue or debate unless it's by that book. Did your wife ask you that? Have you got another wife? You see, I've shared this before once, that I read on a meme. He said, you can't ask a man that, are you married? That सवाल ही नहीं बनता यार. This isn't even a logical question. Because men will always think, huh? Married? There's certain points in time where we have sudden amnesia. This is the weakness of being a man. So it said you have to ask the man, are there any women who may be under the assumption that they are in a relationship with you? And you think, हाँ यार, ये तो हो सकता है, ये तो होगा. Right, so peoples, what religion was hijacked after the death of the Prophet? Student, shukran for your super chat, you're doing it. Do I feel religion was hijacked after the death of the Prophet? Right, you see, I don't believe that the companions were these kind of. I think favorably of the companions. I think very respectfully of them. To me, they are, because of who they are, the their proximity to the Prophet. They will always hold an endeared maqam in my eyes. And even if I have been critical of certain things at times, it's not critical of the person, but maybe certain. So I have said sometimes that, look, you have to be real, that it's very likely that there's several ahadith that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that has transmitted that are not really from the Prophet, and maybe he's mistaken, maybe they're false memories, maybe he's mixing them up with what Ka'b al-Ahbar, the Jewish scribe, is teaching him. We just have to be real, and to be fair, I'm not single in that, because Umar radiallahu an told Abu Hurairah off for telling all these hadith, and even to the extent that threatened to beat him in certain narrations, I believe. But whether or not he threatened to beat him, but I've definitely read that in certain narrations, but he treated him with harsh words, saying that, enough. Enough of this narrations. And I do find it a bit over, like, I feel that the institutionalized Sunni, because is Umar radiallahu anh not Sunni? He's Sunni, is he not? But I feel that the institutionalized Sunni version representation of Islam overdoes it sometimes, just to, because if you're going to think with reason, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh spends, 3 years with the Prophet, and he is this encyclopedia of Islam. I, doubt that. I don't. I feel that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh, sure, to me, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh would be from the lesser companions. He's not from in the lifetime of the Prophet, I don't see him amongst the important, significant companions. He's definitely a companion. He's definitely somebody, and unquestionably has a great veneration, and we admire him for his proximity to the Prophet. But was he in the lifetime of the Prophet an important companion, as in a significant, amongst the kind of the upper league, the pantheon, the great companions who were always around the Prophet, who the Prophet would consult with, the Prophet would kind of hang out with, in that sense, who the Prophet would often go to just chat? Was he amongst them? Not at all. Not at all. He wasn't at all amongst them. He was just somebody that came to Medina, and he embraced Islam amongst a group of people, and they were quite destitute and poor, and the Prophet set up accommodation for them as a collective accommodation called the Sufa, and they never, these people were quite poor, and the Prophet would provide them food and things like that. And yes, he must have followed the Prophet around and been with him on several occasions. I'm not saying he wasn't, because he wasn't working. So I get that, he may have followed him around, but he wasn't. That doesn't, just because you follow someone around doesn't make you the it's like, if I think about it, how my friends may know me won't be the same as just, if I got like an intern to just follow me around during the day, would know me. Because there's a different me that is me when I'm with my friends and I'm relaxed and I'm kind of like, we're, just chilling. The the relaxed version comes out. So I feel that so I feel that the institutionalized Sunni version overdoes it with certain things. But that said, I feel that we respect, and even if we critique, I'm not criticizing him, I'm critiquing some of the perspectives. I do feel we should venerate the companions and respect them and love them and honor them in that sense. So that's my kind of approach. I hope that helps. Somebody, Omar, like my wife, Khadim Rizvi saying, like my wife, number 3, she's a lesser of a wife. Khadim Rizvi is going to be, somebody's going to be divorced tonight. Somebody's getting ready to be made single. Right, so. Alright, so what is going on, people? Right, I wanted to discuss, somebody said on my super chat. Yeah, let's take a look at some of these super chats. I don't see some of let me see. What does Islam, Elias, right, say about women who bleach their skin? You see, these things, I don't feel that they're haram per se, just by being haram. I don't think it's an issue of God getting involved. Masala, Samasya, yeah. This is the problem, that people want God involved on everything. It's like, is God involved? I don't think God is involved on these matters like this. This is the problem. People want God to micromanage everything in telling you off. And if he doesn't, oh my God. I don't feel that at all. But I feel there's other issues here, which are which are guidelines of the Sharia on things like, first of all, health and safety, on safe, because some of these things are not safe. People use these. Then there's another whole issue of low self-esteem, which needs to be tackled, which then ties into a greater context of colorism and people degrading, more melanin. The more melanin you've got, the more you're kind of like downgraded in certain cultures. Tackling this on a huge issue. But these things are so huge, they can never be so easily kind of eradicated, and some cultures are terrible at it, like the Desi culture is ridiculous at it. If you are, I'm quite dark skinned, I think. So, you will have, compared to other people, like I think definitely in my family amongst my siblings, but so you will have this thing of like the culture sees it as a stigma, or not as a stigma, but as dark skin, or even if dark is relative to whatever it's darker than, but there is this culture, and it does exist it exists in African circles as well. So there's this whole concept of darkies and lighties and light skin guys and girls being deemed more attractive. And so can people undo that culture? I think it's a huge effort, because there's a huge kind of like a mammoth of a current to go against it. But I don't feel people should give up. I think people should still, what they can do is try and work on their own self-esteem. That can help. Because it's true that that you see, you may be, because some people may have been kind of on the brunt, because people that do these things, they obviously have been on the brunt of maybe discrimination or insults or a social thing. But there will be many people who will like that as well. That will, not the insult, not that they like the insult, but they like those skin colors. There will be many people that prefer darker skin tone. There will be, because it's amazing that the way creation of God is, that what you might dislike, somebody may think is absolutely amazing about you. And you might be thinking, no, not that thing. Oh my God, that's not my eye, not my nose, not my ears, not my, not my skin color, not my teeth, not my, I don't know, not my hair, not my. But some people, somebody may find it so adorable. And sometimes these things really help as well, like if you come across people that really find something that you maybe kind of like, a bit hiding, but they find that adorable, it helps a person, calibrate their sense of self-esteem, because they come to realize that, well, wow, actually, it's not something to be embarrassed of. It's not something to hate or to self-hate or to. And may Allah make things easy for anyone and everyone who's struggling, because I think it's a really difficult struggle, these things. But I don't feel that these things, I wouldn't encourage these things, but I don't feel just because some things are not good or they, not encouraged, that they automatically haram. Allah is going to punish you in the hell. Allah's like, cha-cha. So, you think you're dark? Cha-cha. Chalo, burn him. Or burn her. throw some tar from hell over her. How does that feel? That would be one hell of divine sarcasm if that was the case. So I don't think that's going to happen. So it's not haram. So we don't need to kind of freak out on every issue about God is... somebody, Hira Rodriguez, que lo que, hermano, que es eso, has super chatted that he's asked the question that can watching porn be makruh?
You teasing me.
Can watching porn? You harami. I do have a very detailed collection. Is that what you thought I was going to say? A very detailed discussion. Haramio? Basal. I have a detailed discussion on this on one of my MindTraps with Sheikh Kashif Khan, who does present that view that several fuqaha have had, that these things, although they may not be good, but but that doesn't make them haram. And he presents that argument from the Shafi'iyya scholars and the other ulama who've argued that, and they quoted even the Hanbali scholars and Ibn Qudama, I believe, and all these people are quoted in that discussion. It's on MindTrap if you check it out. It's with Sheikh Kashif Khan, so you can watch that and you can get a detailed perspective if you're looking for that perspective. But yeah, I mean, the reason why I wanted that detailed discussion with Sheikh Kashif is because I feel that things like, if we're going to be honest, yeah, and I love honesty so much. The thing about stuff like porn is, whether we like it or not, it is here to stay. It's not. I feel that it's futile, any resistance. Does this sound like one of those casting couch kind of episode? Resistance is futile. No, but what I'm saying is, I feel that we have just got our heads in the sand if we think that it's not a part of our world. It is. I mean, do you know how vast the internet is? The internet is as vast as the cosmos right now. In a significant portion of the entire internet is just pornography. So, it's here to stay. I feel that it's not going to go away. And it can never go away. I feel, because sex is ultimately what drives human beings, and especially men. And so it's not going to go away. So I feel it's more an issue of damage control. And you see, now, in that sense, when it's an issue of damage control, one aspect is this whole guilt laden approach of just saying, you're going to go to hell, you're going to burn in hell, acha, cha, cha. Enjoyed the clip, did you? Acha. Angels, throw him in hell. this is that. So now the people just feel so much more guilty, so much more, now they suffer with even more mental anxiety. So it's making it worse, but then they can't give up either, and it's making this cyclic thing. So what I feel is the guilt approach thing. I don't agree with the guilt approach. I feel that it's important to recognize the harms, to recognize things like, okay, where is a person in their life? They have to make their own assessment. Okay, do they have any relationships? Can they handle a real relationship? Because has porn rendered them useless in a real relationship? If so, that is then cataclysmic. And, they need to really, and it's not even about the hell and all of this thing. It's more about they need to see the harm that is happening to their real lives. If things like porn are rendering people unable to have an erection all of a sudden, because then this serious alarm bells need to be, not alarm bells, like explosions need to be happening to bring that person to their senses that something is terribly wrong here. And then you're going to get people, I suppose it comes back to, this is it, like, I suppose, control. And maybe with some people, they can then assess that risk and, see where their life is. I just don't feel, the reason I had that discussion with Kashif Khan and he presented his alternative view was because I don't feel it works in this world to just say, don't. I feel that it's not a viable, there is no alternative. So that's the problem. You see, like, when you say to somebody, don't steal, you have to present them an alternative to earn. You can't just say don't and present no alternative, because that don't is happening due to many complex, compelling reasons. So to just say, oh, don't do it, it's incredibly naive. And then some people say, oh no, you should keep this guilt approach, make people feel guilty. And you think, yeah, cha, cha, cha. Well, it's a good thing you're not God. But yeah, so I don't know if this makes much sense, but you can watch that episode and hopefully it will make a lot more sense. I do tackle a lot of the morality issues, and I tackle the fact, there is this thing that people do say that, look, oh, but, if everybody's doing it, that means, people, oh my God, would you want your son, let's say, who's grown up, because obviously if it's underage, when nobody's talking about people underage, that's categorically illegal. They're talking about grown-ups watching these kind of things, watching pornography. But people say, oh my God, but would you want your son or daughter or brother or sister to be watching pornography, or would you want your parents to be watching pornography? People have some sick fantasy. I don't know how the imagination works. But you see, it's not about would you want them to be doing it. Obviously, it's nothing to do with you. You see, the question is, people have to stop thinking of trying to control. You see, people have private lives. It's like, you could be saying, well, those same people you've highlighted could be in perfectly healthy relationships, which are Islamically fine. And they could be doing all kinds of crazy sexual fantasies, But you don't need to be thinking about that, you sicko. So it's not about would you want them to be. Chill out, for God's sake. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Cool. Right. Right. Maryam is Mufti married. Many a times. Many a I'm in this world like a traveler. That's it. You see, you never take any settlement. You just keep traveling. That's the kun fi dunya ka'annaka musafir. I just studied this hadith and I set off. All right. So what's going down, people? What's going down? Right. So, right. There was a Right, I wanted to say there was a clip. Let me cover this clip. This Australian comedian. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It was to do with.
G'day, ladies and gentlemen. The Buttsman here. I made a horrible joke, and this is my response to what everyone is saying
there was
about
this
me
huge
right now. I woke up
hoo-ha
this morning
about
and
this.
I walked downstairs, patted my pooches, and went to make a coffee, and that's when I made a very big mistake in reading my DMs. Ladies and gentlemen, I spent the first part of the morning learning that I'm appalling, I'm a racist dog, I'm an insensitive, distasteful human being. Someone said, let's bash this dog, let's find him, let's stab him. I'm abhorrent, I'm shameful, disgusting, Islamophobic. I'm a low-life, mangy dog. You wouldn't do that joke in Lakemba, would you? No. Here's another reason that white slavery needs to be reintroduced. I hope you die of cancer. I'm going to rape you. I'm going to rape your mother. You piece of shit, you putrid dog, you insensitive prick, you brain-dead wanker. Someone said, this is why God burns Australia with fire. Someone said, may God destroy you. And that was it. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't. I hope your daughter gets raped. Jesus Christ, what have I done this time? Ladies and gentlemen, it would appear that your old pal, the Buttsman, is in a little bit of hot water. And a lot of people would argue rightfully so. You see, particularly Muslim people are very, very upset at an insensitive joke that I made in my recent comedy special, Anti-Hero. It's a joke that I was telling probably 12 months prior to that being taped. Key word there is, it is a joke. It is not real. It is make-believe. I don't really feel like that, but that is what comedy is. It is people going on a stage and telling people jokes. Now, I know the stand-up you may be used to is just little jokes about, the train and the tram. No, that is not the stand-up I enjoy. I enjoy the Jim Jeffries of the world, the Jimmy Carrs of the world, the Frankie Boyles of the world, the Ricky Gervais of the world. Was the joke rude, horrible, mean, offensive? Yes, and that is the point. It was a joke that I made about the horrific Christchurch massacre that unfortunately happened in New Zealand in 2019, one of the darkest days in that town's history. And from someone who's been there, they've had a lot of dark history, and it has really affected that particular area of New Zealand. And for those of you wondering what the joke was, this was it. This was posted by several Muslim Instagram pages and Twitter pages.
This Australian extremist stormed this building, this mosque, this room, where people were saying their prayers and going about their business. And for me, the saddest thing about that, it wasn't the 52 people who were killed. It wasn't the countless others who had their lives changed forever because their family members were taken from them. It was the hundreds of people that night who couldn't make it home from nightclubs in Christchurch because all the cabbies were dead.
So, people, there was this huge hoo-ha about this comedian. Now, to be honest, I don't know who this comedian was. I saw, Muslim Twitter and all these kind of things blowing up. And I thought, okay, what's this? People sent it to me. I had a watch. I watched his clip that I've just played there. And to be honest with you, look, okay, these are my thoughts here. I feel that humor is sacred. Okay, so you can comment, you can crack jokes, I feel, about anything. I literally do feel that people humor has a sacrosanct right to it, that people cannot make you censor humor. Yes, I may hate that joke. You have the right to hate it. I may hate it. There may be some jokes I totally don't find funny. But it doesn't allow me to say because I'm offended, you can't say it. I do advocate for the primacy of freedom of speech because you see, this is a very slippery slope trying to censor speech. Because if you censor jokes, then tomorrow, oh, you can't critique this. Oh no, that's that's forbidden. That's forbidden. That offends me. This offends. Everything you say will offend somebody. It's not. Oh, there's a great likelihood that everything you say will offend somebody in the world who may just have a different outlook on life. I could say I like apples, and I was gonna speak about. I was gonna also. I'll bring up this very briefly. This Indian matchmaking, and I don't know if you remember. In this was the character Aparna. And she, you see, there's a prime example just to bring her in there that, the person could say anything and she just hated it. He's like, oh, I love humor. She's like, oh, I hate humor. He's like, oh, I like going to Dubai. Oh, I hate Dubai. It's like, you see, you could say anything. Oh, I like apples. Oh, I hate apples. Somebody out there will probably hate what you've said, and you've offended them. You could be like, I love that woman, and somebody out there who's gay is like, oh, that's disgusting. How could a man love a woman? It could be. I mean, you could offend anybody with. So there could be people out there that have got whatever. We have to always allow people to express themselves, even if we don't like it. Let it be. And to be honest with you, the freedom of speech that was expressed by those comments that he read out is so despicable. Some of it. This goes to show, and I have to say this whole thing. Oh, mate, this is why Australia is punished. I mean, talk about bloody collective guilt. You've just ha. This is why Australia has bushfires. I mean, people die in those bushfires. Ha. This is so it's okay for you. This is the irony. It's okay for you to say that. I hope you get cancer and die. Why? Okay, fair enough. You've said it out of anger. But I would like to rape you. I mean, okay, that was a bit of ingenuity there. Bloody hell. Talk about the hateful Muslim fulfilling his own fantasy. It's like gay rape. And so this, and I would like to, what is it? Your daughter getting raped. I mean, what the hell is wrong with people? His mother getting raped. I mean, toba. And why, and how is that okay to be said? And what he's saying not okay to be said. So I wanted to say that look, as Muslims, we do honor freedom of speech. We honor that because the kalimatul tawheed, the oneness of Allah, when expressed by the Prophet, was done on the grounds of freedom of speech with the right to offend. So the Prophet, when he preached Tawheed, he knew that this speech of his will offend. The Qur'an will offend the mushrikeen, the pagans. But it was done on the premise that people have the right to speak their minds with the right to offend if that will offend. It's not an outright, it wasn't, people can judge intentions. It wasn't meant to be insulting. It's not meant to, like, jokes are not meant to be insulting. They're meant to be funny. So, but they can offend. So that's, and I'm a keen advocate for that we can't censor jokes, even about the most horrible of things. I feel that we have to still, jokes should always be allowed to be said. What's with the Ian video? Who's Ian? Right. Right. So what's going on, people? All right, people. You know what? Let's somebody saying, Mufti, is it okay to swear? There's a video of you swearing in Urdu. Yeah, you know the irony is, okay, look, bloody hell. All right. This person, see, he wants to make me swear by trying to spam my spam the chat with that many messages. Right, okay, swearing. I do not believe swearing is haram. Swearing is of different objectives. To swear can be just to swear, and it can be to swear at someone, in the sense that I'm swearing at you, actually swearing at you, and saying you such and such and insulting. Even then, it's more the harm you're causing, which may be haram. Or, you know, however it is, it may be, I don't know about justified, but it may be in sometimes, you know, extenuating circumstance, like somebody's swearing at you and you're swearing back at them, or somebody tries to hit you and you swear at them, or somebody, you know, like people, I suppose these are extenuating circumstances. We understand somebody does a real, let's say they almost drive into your car whilst you're, and you swear at them. These kind of things are, I wouldn't say that's haram. I mean, but obviously there's extenuated circumstances where you swear at people as well. That happens. But generally swearing, like if I was just talking here and saying, F this man, you know, what the F is that? Or if I'm speaking like this or I'm saying something, this is not haram by any measure. Okay? There are propriety issues. And like I wouldn't swear like that on my Monday nights with Mufti. I wouldn't do that. That's a propriety issue. It's not about something I deem it to be haram. I would happily swear. I'd happily swear at you if you wanted. You know, it's not, I'm not no kind of, don't think I'm somebody that doesn't know any swears. Of course I do. I can, so and I have no qualms with swearing if in my speech, if I'm speaking generally amongst friends. I will do that all the time. So it's nothing, you know, that I feel, don't be alarmed. You know, it's not, I've never claimed that, my tongue is always preoccupied with the dhikr of Allah. You're mistaking me for some other Pir Saab. That's not me. So yeah. And those that where they've got me, basically that joke, in that clip, there's an Urdu clip where somebody decided, they thought this was, we're going to destroy Mufti Abu Layth by sharing. And this was a private, like a WhatsApp joke. When I say private, as in I'm obviously sending a voice note, the person sending a voice note, and I'm telling a joke in the voice note. Like we're having a conversation through voice notes. And I've said to this person, his name was Naif Patel, and we were speaking about, but he was a bit of a hidden hater. And I suppose it's me. Sometimes I'm very chilled out around people, and I just, you know, I'm just relaxed. But people are a bit sinister, you see. So they're kind of like, you know, this person said this, I'll store this and use it against him. But I wouldn't think like that, you see. So if I was chatting to you, let's say privately as in just one-on-one, I wouldn't think like that, and I wouldn't ever do things like that. So me and him this one time, many years ago, we're sharing things, and I'm sharing some kind of a joke. So he stored it as a kind of leverage that, you know, I'll get him back one day. And then a few years later, he thought that the time was right, so he released it and had somebody put it on YouTube. It didn't bother me. I was like, look, I swear, so what? And to be honest, surprisingly, so many people actually liked it. And I thought, well, you know, no such thing as bad publicity. You know, it's whether, look, if that's your thing, I've never tried to be sanctimonious or tried to be so holy, and I've never said to you guys, hey, you know, come, this is a holy Mufti, and, you know, I only do dhikr. And yeah, I don't swear on my Monday nights with Mufti. I don't swear. On my MindTrap, I'm a bit more relaxed because it's a dialogue with a real person in real time. But here, I will, because of propriety issues, I won't just because I choose not to. But it doesn't mean I feel it's haram. Okay, cool. I hope that clarifies the context. Cool. All right. What about the ayah about mockery that they always bring up? Yeah, there's nothing to say swearing is haram. The companions swore. They swore all the time. It's nothing new. Swears change over time, by the way. So, in the Prophet's time, swears weren't really sexual because sex was not the taboo. The taboo was things like diseases and curses and things like that. So people used to swear like that, like calamities. That was the taboo. Like, may you die of a disease. That was the swear. Ooh, you cursed me. Like, this was the swear. Like today, if you said that, it'd sound dumb, because it's not a taboo. Diseases are not a taboo today. Like, so in the Prophet's time, they used to always say, Thaqilatki ummuk. May you die and your mother be bereaved of you. What do you think that is? That was a swear. And all the companions are using it in all the hadith. Thaqilatki ummuk. May your mother be bereaved of you. It's like, because that's like today, like we'd probably say amongst mates, like, what the no way. Like people would say things like this. But in their day and age, if you try to use sexual things as a taboo, it wouldn't make sense because sex was very natural with the Arabs in that century. So it wasn't seen as like a taboo topic. But they did use sexual swears occasionally as well, like the famous hadith of Abu Bakr radiallahu an in Sahih Bukhari, where, the female goddess Lat, where the person says, hail Lat, hail Lat. And he says, well, why don't you go suck on her clitoris then? That's what he says to, that's in Bukhari, he says, Famsus Badr al-Lat. Why don't you go and suck on the clitoris of Lat if it's that? And this is Abu Bakr radiallahu an. So it's not, these things are not haram. So yeah, I hope that clarifies. Cool. So, yep. Alright, so people, let's move on. Alright, we need to get to the Masala segment, people. The Masala going down, people. We're going down. People. The Masala segment. Alright, so we've got our beloved. We're going to have to speak about our beloved first. Beloved, and then we've also got a double Masala. I've got a double gourmet Masala meal for you today. Both on the same note. On one hand, we have the beloved, our beloved Sheikh Asrar Rashid Saab, who conquers rat poison. We've got him on one side, who is saying that
one graduate from a Mufti from Birmingham, a graduate from Karachi. Very difficult to even have a conversation with. So
very difficult. I mean, it's very incredibly difficult. I try to have a conversation with myself sometimes, and beep. I'm about to swear. He doesn't even listen. So on one hand, we've got this. On the other hand, we've got a duo, double dragon. This one, double dragon. We got Danny Boy and Johnny Boy. We got Jonathan Brown. Right, so both of them, and you won't believe this, people. Seldom does this happen, once in a blue moon. But I am bringing this to you. This is me, people. This is me. Va. The theme, the underlying theme is the same thing. Can you believe that? The Masala for both Jonathan Brown and Sheikh Asrar Bilawid is exactly the same. And it ties in to our previous topic of swearing. But insults, I mean, ties in. It's not to do, but it follows on. Insults. This one. So what had happened is, here was our beloved Sheikh Asrar, who's had the village wars are back on. You've got the Mullah Asrar versus Mullah Osman going down on the whole who is right? Is it the Brailwis? Is it the Deobandis? And they've been going back, forth. We thought we had a truce a while back, but nope. After the Beirut explosion comes this explosion of in villages. So Mullah Usman from Bradford, and then our beloved from Birmingham, but behaving as though he's from a village. So what is this one? What is this one? So what happens is Sheikh Asrar, he does this whole 4-hour kind of lecture on live, does this live stream where he's talking about Deobandis, he's attacking them, but he repeats, insists people do not censor any comments, no swearing. As long as there's no, do not swear. Swearing is silly. He says swearing is silly, okay, because it just shows your ignorance. And I think, Sheikh, beloved, is this you? Up? Not. And there, lo and behold, Sheikh Asrar in his magnanimity is teaching us ethics. You should not insult. This, after all, it only belittles the speaker. You think, va guru, va. And then all of a sudden, he starts turning, he himself in his live stream starts calling Usman a retard. So let's go right to it, people. Let's go to it this time.
You need to swear at anyone. If you insult and swear, it only shows the level of intelligence. Please, there's no need to insult and swear. We're having a decent conversation here. And this is why Uthman is a retarded Deobandi, a very retarded Deobandi, and Abdul Halim is even worse. गाली हजूर की तो लगती दुआओं जैसी वाह गाली हजूर की तो लगती दुआओं जैसी हमको भी दे तो लगे है गाली आपका क्या होगा जनाबे आली आपका क्या होगा
आपका क्या होगा गाली हुजूर की तो लगे दुआओं जैसी. So our beloved who is telling people you should not be
to swear at anyone.
Should not be swearing.
If you insult and swear, it only shows the level of intelligence.
It shows.
Please, there's no need to insult and swear. We're having a decent conversation here. And this is why Uthman is a retarded Deobandi, a very retarded Deobandi, and Abdul Halim is even worse. गाली हजूर की तो लगती दुआओं जैसी.
Oh, wow. You know, Sheikh Asrar, beloved Ratwi Sahib or Rashidia, never fails to kind of entertain, I have to say. Yes, somebody's asking, is Sheikh Asrar about 35? I think he's only about 35. He's much younger than me, so yeah, I mean, ho kar hai baba. Yeah, papa. Are munna. Na munna. Na munna na. This one not nice, you know. Teaching us one thing and then he's confused. Okay, I'm confused. But obviously, so that rightly fits it. But this theme, people, this theme is so crazy because you've got. I'm trying to think.
G'day, ladies and gentlemen. The Bucks man.
How many brothers here have two wives?
No. I'm trying to think. Where is this? Oh, here it is. Because this theme links straight into the other dynamic duo, Danny Boy and Johnny Boy. You got, on the other hand, there have been refutations coming out of the dishonesty of Daniel Haqiqatjou. You know what? I honestly do not get. I definitely do. I mean, I don't take a liking to Danny Boy at all. But in all honesty, though, what on earth is all of this? I mean, first of all, what is that refutation? Why is there a windmill? There's just so many questions here. Why is there a windmill behind him? And why has Asadullah, whoever he is, written a refutation that is 100,000 words for. It's like, what the hell is that? 100,000 words. What is a PhD? Isn't a PhD 80,000 words or something? I mean, I honestly, what is going on, people? What is going on? So this bag hate, mudslinging, throwing mud around at each other, the whole thing. You've got, if I find...
How many brothers here have two wives? Raise your hand if you have more than one wife. Any brothers have more than one wife?
Okay, this is, you can ignore the... That's the, I think I've got it here. Let me open this. All right, here it is.
Personally, and said, hey man, I just saw this. What do you think? Instead, just some of these people started tweeting about this and being, look at how Jonathan Brown is.
Jonathan.
Consider me pretty low. If you really care about me, if you really care about honoring the Prophet, then tell me about it. But instead, no, that's not what people do. They want to go and get their pound of flesh and insult their brother and stuff like that. So very, very forceful, serious, but extremely polite and respectful. So something that you couldn't hold it against. I accept criticism when it's done with incredible adab.
But Danny Boy here did crack me up. Good adab impression.
No, I mean, if someone's like a slanderous, bloated jerk.
Yeah, these cockroaches, they're like sort of cockroaches and rats and hyenas, really hyenas.
I accept criticism when it's done by complete a-holes. Okay.
This is what I see. I don't know if you tell me. It's been taken over by these like Kharijite attitudes. If you have one,
Shadi.com.
We're gonna meme you to death. We're gonna
Shadi.
Ask Dr. Brown one more question that was probably as controversial, not probably a little bit less controversial. It was to do with an article written about salvation for non-Muslims. Now, I'll be honest, I read the entire article and I made sure to read it more than once as well. I didn't see anything in that article that says that you have the perennialist view or anything like that kind of view, or the view that all paths lead to the same truth or anything like that. But then when I did a bit more digging, I came across a part of the essay.
So this is a separate essay also published on Yaqeen about the salvation of non-Muslims. Basically, do non-Muslims get saved and go to Jannah?
Which was removed, and this is what it says. It says, to be clear, what follows here is just my idea. It thus also seems possible that God could forgive the sin of shirk for a reason other than repentance, perhaps as an expression of his immeasurable mercy. This was subsequently removed from the article.
So because
someone would argue that
they are obviously supporting Yaqeen here, and here Danny Boy is dissecting. This is Danny's dissection, but
make the correction public.
So this is the...
So this article is arguably worse than the LGBT article on Yaqeen's site. Brown was arguing that those people who commit shirk and Islam has reached them and they still rejected Islam and continued with their kufr, Allah could possibly still...
Dajjal with a small d. Or we can say mini Dajjals, no problem. But there is one Dajjal with a big D, okay?
Big D. This one D. Hi, Daniel D. The thing is this, that look, I actually may agree on, I'm sure I agree and say even much more than what Yaqeen have said, and I actually criticize Yaqeen for not being open enough. And I disagree with Danny Boy on so many occasions and his obsession with the LGBT. Right, but I mean, this clip he made was actually quite funny. And you've got the same thing going on there. You've got
bloated jerk.
Yeah, these cockroaches, they're like sort of cockroaches and rats and hyenas, really hyenas.
I accept criticism when it's done by complete a-holes. Okay.
वाह 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 गाली हुजूर की तो लगे दुआओं जैसी वाह हम दुआ भी दें तो लगे है गाली. Even if we give somebody a dua, they think it's a swear. But if Huzur swears, it's like a dua for us. Hi, hi, hi. So this is what we're facing, people. These are the things going down. So ranging all the way from you've got our beloved over there, going through those kind of things, right to Jonathan Brown with his thing saying, look, oh, you shouldn't insult, you shouldn't do this. And then the same thing he's doing. Because this is another problem, because Jonathan Brown as well, if you're going to think in all honesty, it's surprising because, I don't know, like I just expect so much more from him for some reason. But he's like very, his temperament is like very kind of reactionary, like childlike reactionary, very kind of temperamental, and it doesn't really make sense for somebody who's of a mature age, somebody who's a professor in university, who has an academic background, who, it doesn't make sense to be somebody that's all kind of react like so that's but then to be fair, now he seems to have found his match. Seriously, this is King Kong versus Godzilla. Dono pagal. It's like both are loco in their own way, and they're just like hooked on each other now. It's like that autism spectrum just connects. Right, this one not nice, this one. So even the autism is saying to itself,
तूने बहका दिया ना, तेरे कहने में मैं आ गया. इस वक्त बड़ी मुसीबत की घड़ी है. अपने मामला खुद देखो, दूसरे को इल्जाम ना दो.
So that's the thing. But this is where I feel that these people who try to speak on behalf of Islam, you see, this is the problem with all of them. They, baap ban jate hain. It's like they think that they, no sooner can they speak on it, they think that this is their territory. It's like Jonathan Brown attacking him, Daniel, for not having Islamic qualifications. And then there's a video I just saw yesterday, Daniel attacking him, that what Islamic qualifications have you got? Yani dono, no tanki. This one not nice, my friend, This one doing this to Islam, doing this to Islam. This bechara, this is the growth of Islam. Instant sterilization, to Islam. So I think this one big problem, people. I think we got to wrap this up. It's been going on. Oh, right, people, I did have some poetry. I'll share that. Right, since we've got Allah. This was by somebody. God, I've forgotten his name. I came across this poem and I thought, Vah. I have to share this with people. That yehi wafa ka sila hai to koi baat nahi. Ye dard tumne diya hai to koi baat nahi. Allah. And check, you know what? In the poetry, see what you have to extract is the psychosocial mentality, the philosophy that abides in societies. So, you see, in this poem, you're going to see a lot of that kind of stoicism, which is actually quite prevalent in a lot of third world countries and countries like the Indian subcontinent and or countries from the Indian subcontinent and other countries too. So if this is the consequence of loyalty, then he says, koi baat nahi. It's like, this koi baat nahi, it's nothing. Labas, this is there's an aura of a stoic aura to it. That whatever happens, that lo que pasó, pasó. And lo que será, será. That's the thing, people. So, यही बहुत है कि तुम देखते हो साहिल से, सफीना डूब रहा है तो कोई बात नहीं. Says it's enough for me. Now look at this qana'a, this concept of contentment. That it is enough for me that you are watching from the shore. Your glance is enough. The fact that the ship is sinking, don't worry about it. Allah, I love the attitude, honestly. ये फिक्र है कहीं तुम भी ना साथ छोड़ चलो. जहान ने छोड़ दिया है तो कोई बात. That what bothers me is that you might leave me. The fact that the world has already abandoned me, don't worry about it. तुम ही ने आईना दिल मेरा बनाया था. That you built this mirror of my heart. You see, this aina dil, it's a phrase used in Urdu poetry quite a bit. And it means like the aina, the mirror of the heart, but it's really referring to the heart. But they are likening it to a mirror in its purity, potential purity, transparency, also in its fragility. Rather. So, तुम ही ने आईना दिल मेरा बनाया था, तुम ही ने तोड़ दिया है तो कोई बात. Since you made it, if you broke this heart, don't worry about it. And then he says, किसे मजाल कहे कोई मुझको दीवाना. He says, who has the cojones? Who can dare to call me insane? किसे मजाल कहे कोई मुझको दीवाना, अगर ये तुमने कहा है तो कोई बात. Hi. Says, but if it's you that said it, chalo koi baat. La bas. Oh, what a poem, people. What a poem. Poetry, I tell you, it has some majesty to it. That it's just... On that, if I have here, I don't know if I have it here. There was... I wanted to share for some of our... I don't know if... for our Arabic speaking. There was a poem... Oh, I read this, didn't I? Didn't I read the... that... لها حكم لقمان وسورة يوسف that ونغمة داود وعفة مريم. He says about the woman that she has the wisdom of Luqman and the form of Joseph in his beauty and the rhythm, the alluring rhythm of David, of Dawood, and the modesty of Mary. Hi. Wali huznu Ya'qub wa wahshatu Yunus. And I have the sorrow of Jacob, and I have the kind of the loneliness of Jonah, who's trapped in the whale. Wa alamu Ayyub wa hasratu Adam. Hi. And the pain, the agony of Job, of Ayyub, and the kind of like the hasra, that the kind of regret of Adam. Hi. And these two lines have gone down in history. Wow, listen to these. وَلَوْ قَبْلَ مَبْكَاهَا بَكَيْتُ صَبَابَةً. He's saying that if only I had cried before she cried. Hi. But this one, muy difícil, this one. Para hombres, for men, this crying, this one, difficult, He says, وَلَوْ قَبْلَ مَبْكَاهَا بَكَيْتُ صَبَابَةً لَكُنْتُ شَفَيْتُ النَّفْسَ قَبْلَ التَّنَدُّمِ. He says, if I had cried before she cried like my heartful, I would have quenched what my soul was seeking. And then this line is the iconic line, proverbial throughout history, used till today. ولكن بكت قبلي فهيج لي البكاء بكاها فقلت الفضل للمتقدم. Aye, wow. He says, but she cried before me, and it triggered in me an emotion. Her crying did, so he's saying I did cry, but it was a consequence of her crying. So I had to say, al-fadlu lil-mutaqaddim. That indeed, the one who comes first, that the virtue and the prize is for them. Allah. فأيقنت أن الطرف قد قال مرحبا وأهلا وسهلا بالحبيب المكرم. So people, with that, let's wrap this up. Those of you that are on, you should all be on YouTube. You should have all, yaar, you know what? Ab bol ke sharma jate hain. These are not nice, you know. Let me bring up my subscription. If you haven't already subscribed to YouTube, Facebook, Patreon, Miss Patreon Citos. I've began that, by the way, from this month. So we are due. I am looking to have one of the Patreon group sessions going this week. So that's just between the group, and then there's different kind of things I'm offering for, to create that bond, the connection. I suppose it's because it's not, it's good sometimes to have that connect. I'll tell you, I did a Mufti's meetup last week. If you haven't watched it, check it out. It's on YouTube. And then afterwards, I saw some of the profiles on Instagram, and now I could kind of it's like they had life to them now, because I'd spoken to them, I'd seen them, and it's good. It kind of creates a bond. It makes it more real. But cool, people, I am on those places. If you haven't already subscribed to them, then whilst you're rushing to the toilet one day, may this happen to you as you.
Wait.
If you haven't subscribed, then amen, ameen. May that. People, I'm gonna leave you with it. Take very good care of yourselves. Those of you that are on Patreon, do watch out. We're gonna have our group session thing this week, so watch out for the messages and check them out on the Telegram group. Other than that, take care, people. Much love as always. Take very good care of yourselves. Remember your daily dose of laughter, people. Trust me, that is the one thing. The insanity of humor is what will keep you clinging to your sanity. With that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I'm putting up my exit page. Do remember to like. And on YouTube, click the notification bell, people. Assalamu alaikum. Over and out. Stay blessed.